It's entirely possible Governor Rell and husband Lou are celebrating this weekend after getting some really pretty fantastic poll numbers this week. At the Dodd House, though, a different story. The mood may be a little more dour. With us to talk about this is Hartford Current columnist and former state senator Keven Rennie. Senator Rennie, nice to see you back here again.
Thank you, Dennis.
It's been a while, I know, back since the Doobie McDowell days.
Yes.
Let's talk about these Governor Rell approval numbers. I mean, they remain really high during
They do.
Tough economy. Any explanation?
No credible one. It's as if she's immune to everything that's going on around us, and people just like her. And you know, they'd probably be correct in thinking she doesn't really have anything to do with it, and she's probably not going to make it better, and maybe they don't think she can make it any worse.
And in all these potential matchups, she's really wallops all the competitors.
Yes.
Susan Weisswitz, Dan Malloy, and Jim Amon, who only had 4%. But
who are those? Who are that 4%? They have some explaining to do.
And Secretary Weisswitz at 44%.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you that she was the most popular among the three?
It does, because as 4 years ago when she ran for the Democratic nomination, she was terrible. She was terrible in trying to answer questions and having any substance. And yet, I guess it is just a tribute to her going around the state and handing out proclamations and talking about registering to vote.
Speaking about terrible, Senator Dodd's poll numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, they have really tanked. And let's show you this graphic that we have. Let's go back to 2001 when he had a 71% approval rating, which is, you know, high for anybody, 16% disapproval. It has fallen, and what you don't see in the middle of these numbers is the ones gradually falling, reaching a low of 48% just this week. And the Quinnipiac University poll said 51% would vote against him, and 42% don't trust him.
Yeah.
Explain these numbers to us. What's happening?
Senator Dodd has walked into the epicenter of many bad events in American politics, and then he's personalized it and made it worse. And it really is almost inexplicable that he has done this, but I think it arises mostly out of his refusal to come clean on his sweetheart deals with Countrywide Mortgage, the largest residential mortgage lender in the country.
The senator had said he would release these documents dating back to last June. He would release them.
Right.
He still hasn't. Last week we had your colleague at the Current, Rick Green, on, who said it's still not acceptable to just show us the documents and not let us make copies of them.
It's like peekaboo.
What kind of advice is the senator getting? We know it's bad advice.
It's expensive advice, and it's very bad. His campaign has spent $120,000 on legal advice in this ethics matter, which is essentially a personal matter. His campaigns are largely funded by the financial industry, so they're paying for Chris Dodd's defense. He released a report almost 2 weeks ago, and that report had been, I believe, paid for by his campaign, that said, oh yes, anyone else similarly situated could have gotten these deals. But that isn't true. The report really is misleading. And even the way they released it was misleading, because it had been done many months ago, and after it was completed, but not released to the public, he was still saying that he didn't have information from Countrywide that would allow him to release the full picture. So he simply has not been telling the truth for these many months, and there's no reason why suddenly everyone should believe him. He has brought this on himself. This
week, the nation has started to learn about Connecticut voters' disappointment with Senator Dodd. All the national media now onto the fact that he's in trouble. Right. I mean, and the Republican National Committee could designate him as a vulnerable incumbent and decide to sink some money into this.
They could.
Race.
Yes.
Do you think it'll happen?
I do. I think it will. I think that he is for them. Connecticut may be one of the few bright spots right now in the country. They've had some staggering losses in the last 2 years, so that here's a guy who really looks vulnerable in ways that other Democratic incumbents do not, and he's had a long run of never having numbers anything close to this. And he's brought it all on himself.
Let's talk about some of the Republicans who may get into this race and challenge him. And of course, it's not official that he's even going to run again. Let's take a look at some of these names that we've been hearing. We have, of course, the former Congressman Chris Shays and Rob Simmons. Everyone's talking about Rob Simmons. Then we have some other names that are sort of being bandied about that you sort of hear, well, what about these two people? How about we have Themis Claridis and Penny Bakayauke, state representatives, and John McKinney. What do you make of some of these people?
I think the mood at the Dodd House would improve significantly if it were some of those people, but if it's Rob Simmons, got a lot to worry about.
So you think that he's got the potential to bring in some money and make some money?
I do. You know, in 2000, he beat Sam Gadenson really against really significant odds. That was the year that Joe Lieberman was on the national ticket, and yet he beat a 20-year incumbent. He is relentless when he campaigns, and almost held on in 2006 in a catastrophic year for the Republicans.
But you know, Shays and Simmons fail the "What have you done for me lately?" test. They both have, you know, coming off losses.
Yes.
Would a fresh face maybe be better?
Well, a fresh face that would need some heft and some accomplishments, and also some proof that they can win on the big stage. You know, it's a great thing to be elected state representative or state senator. A nationally covered campaign is an entirely different creation, and you are under a searing light. I
asked Attorney General Roger Blumenthal earlier in the program if he would run for Dodd's seat if Dodd does not run, and Dean Pagani has reported that there are talks going on to try to convince Senator Dodd maybe to not run. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen?
Good luck to the people who have to go in and have that conversation with him.
But presumably there'll be another poll in a couple of months, and if it doesn't improve or if it goes down, will he? You know,
could be. It takes a pretty big dog to go in and say to someone who's been in the Senate for 30 years, your time is up. And in Connecticut, the Democratic Party is in the kind of shape that they don't really have someone who can credibly go in and say, look, this is what's going to happen to you if you don't run again. Yeah. And I think that would be, now that Dodd has created such a mess for himself and that people don't trust him, I think there's an even bigger incentive for him to run again and try to, in essence, clear his name of this shadow that he has cast on himself.
State Senator, former State Senator Keven Rennie, Hartford current columnist. Can't we get all those words out? You have so many titles. Nice to see you back here again.
Thank you.